Hello everybody, welcome to this video where I'm here with Nico working together in the Tezos ecosystem, and we are going to talk today about some new development on Tezos that a lot of people have been talking about, and there are a lot of questions and Nico has a lot of answers. So we are going to talk about Etherlink today. So Nico, nice to have you here.
Good to have you guys. I think it's my first time on a video with the 3D Tech/Tezos apparatus of a media room and everything, so excited to be here.
So Nico is working here in the DeFi team, so he's the head of DeFi at 3D Tech. Can you give us more information about what you do as a head of DeFi?
We have three core entities within the Tezos ecosystem. One of them is 3D Tech, where we are here in London. I run DeFi for the ecosystem, so for both Tezos and Etherlink, the new chain that we're here to speak about today. And that team is essentially tasked with making Tezos and now Etherlink into a major DeFi force within the crypto ecosystem. And whether it's like DeFi on-chain, anything finance on-chain related, for like some real-world use cases that are brought on-chain for like simplicity, for fun, for both, or things that are like more traditionally associated with DeFi, using composability on-chain to have your money do more than what you would be able to do in a traditional finance context.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. So let's get to the subject, Etherlink. Maybe we can start by just explaining a little bit what Etherlink is for the people who didn't follow the news on Tezos.
Etherlink is a layer 2 blockchain, okay? And for all intents and purposes, it's essentially a blockchain. So it takes its security from the Tezos L1, and we have many resources out there, including the Etherlink documentation itself, available at docs.etherlink.com. that tell you more about this. But here we're here to talk about very practical things and what you can actually do as a builder and later on as a user on Etherlink. Etherlink is currently in a beta launch. So our idea with the beta launch is for builders to come on Etherlink and actually start deploying their things in a relatively sheltered environment before the masses and most people actually come into Etherlink at the end of June with the official launch. Etherlink is a blockchain that uses the EVM tech stack. EVM stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine. We've seen so many of those blockchains in recent years. It started in 2020, 2021, the previous bull market with Avalanche and Phantom and so on, which were alternative L1 chains using the Ethereum virtual machine to make things easier, have access to MetaMask, Rainbow Wallet, Uniswap Wallet, and so on, and have that familiarity for the builders with the tech stack that is quite mature at this point on the EVM side. And when I talk about the tech stack, I'm talking about things related to all of the testing tools, deployment tools like Hardhat, the Foundry, the more recent Foundry suite, some of those things at lower level with Ethers.js and Web3.py, depending on whether you're a JavaScript aficionado or a Python maniac, right? And things that are higher level now and are very usable, even for someone who hasn't had a ton of experience with Web3 on the building side. And those are things like ThirdWeb, a very cool company based in London, actually, not too far from us on the other side of the Thames, that is making tools and very easy to follow videos to be able to one-click deploy or relatively simply interact with smart contracts and with the blockchain from a UI, from a Web2 backend or anything like that. And so many of those companies are around. Alchemy is another one, and so on. And being an EVM chain gives us access to this. In addition, and we'll probably expand on this at a later stage in the video, with all of the tools that we know and love of the Tezos blockchain itself, and that you guys have covered in extensive videos in the past. And for example, you'll be able to use smart contracts that ultimately transpile to Michelson. High-level languages on that side are like SmartPy or JS Lego, and you'll be able to actually deploy that to in a roundabout way to Etherlink. and have this ability to interact with the same state and so on. So if you're Tezos builders, there's things for you coming up, and this is quite exciting as well, and we'll be communicating more and more about this over the next few months.
So talking about builders, there is a question that we see often on social medias is why would builders come to build on Etherlink? So because it's EVM based, it uses the tools that dozens of other blockchains already use. So it's possible to go and build on another EVM blockchain and not Etherlink. So what is more attractive about Etherlink that will bring developers to build on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few things that are unique to Etherlink, some of which are more relevant to others to builders. Our first audience is builders, and then once some builders have built some cool apps, then the end users also come into the picture and are obviously the main deal down the line. At the beginning, what is Etherlink exactly? It's a layer 2 rollup on Tezos. The fact that we roll up to Tezos has some pros, some cons. One of those pros is that the Tezos blockchain is very cheap and very efficient, and there is a lot of room in the blocks currently for data availability, among other things. So without going into too much technical detail, because that's not the scope of that video, we'll do something else on this later on. Really, the main thing is the fees are going to be very low. That blockchain won't go down, will be very stable, and will allow for a block time of something like 200 milliseconds, which is very quick actually. Even by Ethereum L2 standards, very few of them get to that at this point. It is an optimistic rollup. Optimistic rollups have proven that their product market fit on the L2 side on Ethereum. Arbitrum 1 is one, OP Mainnet, Base are some of them. It is like quite convenient if the ecosystem is designed, sort of directed in the right way. And that's what we're trying to do. That's the other side of the question. We have something where, because of the strength of Tezos historically on decentralized governance, one of the strengths of Tezos historically is that self-governance on the L1 that has worked remarkably well, and the latest upgrade of Paris has again shown that. The idea is you start from scratch, it's a new blockchain, and we have that opportunity to build with our various partners something that benefits the fact that we're not first to market. Currently, we've seen what happened on Avalanche, on Arbitrum 1 and so on, excellent projects, but which suffer from what's called fragmentation. So on Ethereum, there's tons of L2s. On Tezos, there's one. So currently, Etherlink is the only L2 on Tezos. It is the go-to. If you want to do something on Tezos, or generally speaking, it's one that's relatively visible, hopefully down the line, and something where like people can interact with only one chain without having to go back and forth or having to pick and choose what they want to do on the chain. What I mean by that is that you go to Arbitrum and you want to send yourself some USDC from a centralized exchange to Arbitrum. Do you want to send USDC or USDC.E? And those are two different versions of the same token. Why is it like that historically? We won't get into this. All of those things are stuff that they have because they are the OGs. They actually created that narrative, that tech stack, and they had to iterate over this. And Avalanche, as an OG of the Alt L1 space, have similar things. You want to use USDT? Is it USDT or USDT.E? You want to use Bitcoin? Do you want to use WBTC, wrapped Bitcoin, or BTC.B, the Avalanche born more decentralized implementation? For us, from the get-go, we've made a huge effort. My team, especially, and me when we were speccing out Etherlink and so on, to have one version of everything with very deep liquidity. An example is TZBTC, which right now is getting out of beta. The signing ceremony happened yesterday, and we're filming this on the 23rd of May for reference. TZBTC is going to be one receipt that you can trade and use for composability on Etherlink with very large liquidity deployed by third-party partners and whoever wants to contribute, really. That will be unique as a BTC receipt on Etherlink. So everything that you do BTC related on Etherlink will use TZBTC, which is minted and redeemed on Tezos L1 and native to our ecosystem, but will live in many places going forward. Everything we do related to Layer 0 and the Stargate bridge, of which we're going to be a launch partner when they launch later this week, is within OFT format. OFTs are omni-chain fungible tokens. Those tokens are tokens that are very easily bridgeable in a safe and well-established way, battle-tested way, using Stargate or using our own bridge when it comes online on the launch date at the end of June. Those things mean that not having like so many bridges and stuff, there's one version of each of the tokens with the liquidity associated with it, which a lot of like ecosystems are suffering from currently. The last bit is for builders. We've tried to identify the best tooling solutions, infrastructure solutions and stuff, very closely working with them in a way that they understand the Etherlink tech stack and what we've been working on. They understand how they can leverage us and make something that works even better using our own tech stack. And the approach that we're taking with Etherlink for no fragmentation and a fair chain. One example that I can quote right now is Midas. So Midas is a Berlin-based company. They're doing stablecoins. They're backed by major blue chip VCs in the US, Framework Ventures, and Block Tower Capital. And what those guys are working on is super interesting. They're doing a very compliant EUSD token, which is a USD stablecoin, that will be stakeable, and from day one of the launch of Etherlink will provide an onboarding experience that, in my opinion, is unparalleled. Doesn't exist so far out there, where you will be able, from a Euro bank account to EUSD, to have an onboarding and offboarding that is instant and free, including on weekends. That's something that's remarkable, in my opinion, because it hasn't existed so far, and it kind of like makes it much easier for an average user to think of their money not as a crypto pot and a traditional finance like normal banking rail pot, and something where they can go back and forth between the two without cost. So that's something that I think a lot of our builders are already looking into. Some of the guys in our DeFi Catalyst Accelerator that took place in Singapore in person for 2 weeks is now in its final week and will wrap up on the 20th of May next Tuesday. Is something that enables a slew of new applications to come to life and to potentially cater to more normal users who might be crypto aware but not crypto native, essentially, and are not on chain currently.
Okay, great. Yeah. Are there other projects that are coming to Etherlink, maybe after the launch, or that are expected to come very soon, that you are excited about and that you would like to share about?
So we have a number of projects that have reached out to us, that have been spun up organically, and the community is rallying around various projects, and it's always fascinating to see in a new ecosystem. And we have some very heavily innovative projects as part of the DeFi Catalyst Accelerator, among other things, that are working as we speak on some final audits, on some final design touches on their apps and things like that. So among those, I can talk about a few of them. One of them is a spot DEX, but that spot DEX is a very innovative type of a spot decentralized exchange. It's something that uses a central limit order book, like you would have on Nasdaq or the London Stock Exchange, and essentially does everything on-chain. Typically, back in the day, Uniswap started, and before them, Ether Delta and so on, doing automated market makers, because that was a need that we had, because of the slowness of the blockchains back then, the price of the fees, and just feasibility. At this point in time, with blockchains like Etherlink and a few others in the Ethereum ecosystem and Solana, you have better ways of doing this, and we can go much closer to what actually happens in traditional finance, with a very strong, very high capital efficiency. And that's what Hanji will enable with a top-notch design and technology that will be available from day one on the spot DEX side on Etherlink. They have a lot more in the pipe, and they'll have perpetuals coming up and so on, but the spot DEX will be there from day one with large liquidity. The second one that I can speak about, which is very common and always useful in any ecosystem, is Planned. So Planned is a money market. They are starting right now with an AV V3 fork, okay? Something that you would have as a money market to deposit a token and borrow another one against it. In most ecosystems out there, that money market will have its own specificities, a very strong stewardship from the team that has a strong know-how on this. There was a guys building plenty before that on Tezos, which is still running, still kicking, and we have a number of innovations from that team in the pipe, which are along the lines of aggregating money markets across chains to create that liquidity layer that would be needed for like people who supply liquidity to always have the best bang for the buck, and for the borrowers to have some visibility on what their rates could be down the line. The third one that I could think of short term is Revo. Revo is currently a yield marketplace that is active on a variety of blockchains. They're stepping it up and going into something that is more technical, more innovative, and they will have two Etherlink specific vaults deployed that will let you deposit some money on Etherlink using that on-ramp that we were talking about earlier with Midas, and essentially like have one vault in USD stablecoins, one vault in wrapped ETH, which will be there from day one thanks to our partner Stargate as a bridge. Basically, we will have this very very soon, if not on day one, on Etherlink for Revo, and there's something exciting to look for. And then after that, we'll have all of those things that we find on every single blockchain. A spot DEX that is AMM based. AMM stands for Automated Market Makers. Those are typically forks of like PancakeSwap or Uniswap V2, V3, with farms to top it up. And that's something that we need. A partner of ours, which is coming as an ideal launchpad, needs that ability for like a V2 pool to be set up permissionlessly, which is one of the benefits of those you need V2 and V3 forks. We will have things along the art side. The Tezos ecosystem has always been very, very strong on the art front, and we want to give our artists and that entire community around it a way to benefit and to leverage that new tech stack and that new piece of infra that we're making available in the form of the Etherlink chain. Alexandra, who was just hired here in London, has a lot of ideas around this. We're going to unveil a grant program around this. We want that community of artists to keep its vibrancy on the Tezos L1, on Etherlink, wherever they want to play. And there's a lot of like things down the line that are like being worked on for like forks of Pump.fun, which has been something that's been successful in other ecosystems. On Blast, there's also a version of this where like you can spin up your own meme coin relatively easily, and then manage it on the platform in a very user-friendly way. All of this will come to Etherlink relatively quickly and in a seamless environment where people can actually, without too much effort, without too much complexity, be able to use X platform, another one. One last thing that I can mention on that very long answer is the, for now called the Points Club, and we're looking for a better name. If anyone has an idea, please reach out. Where essentially we will have that ability in a unique website to look at point allocations within that Points Club for Hanji, for Planned, for Revo, or for whoever becomes a member of that club as an app going forward. And those points, as a user, you sign up. There are initiatives that have been similar on various chains in the past. Those have worked relatively well, and I find very entertaining on Blast, on Jito, which wrote that guidebook back in the day, on Turtle Club more recently. Things where like those points can be used in various ways down the line for potential incentivization on from the perspective of the apps, for like status within various apps, for things that give you specific roles on Discord and other social media, and those things will be referenced in one website that we're working on at the moment with partners, and that thing is quite exciting and will give people a lot of visibility on what they can do day one on Etherlink as soon as it's live within the next few weeks potentially.
Okay, that's very interesting. So a lot of projects coming to Etherlink. Talking about projects, so there are people who are going to build these projects. Are you working with different tooling teams that have tools on the EVM stack that are going to implement Etherlink, or that are going to make it easier for builders to build on Etherlink?
Yeah, we're working with a number of teams. We want to work with them more closely for some of them. We've been working night and day at this point for months and months so Block Scout will be the main explorer for Etherlink. They have a testnet explorer and a mainnet explorer. The address is explorer.etherlink.com for the mainnet one and testnet-explorer.etherlink.com for the testnet one. They will be linked within the same UI, and you're going to be able to go from one to the other very easily, like BSC Scan has done on Binance. And that thing, getting them to a point where it's very highly usable, where everything is referenced in the right way, with the right logos and all of the bells and whistles, has taken some time. It is now something that I find very usable and is in a lot of ways better than what I've seen in other ecosystems that were starting on the L2 side recently. We have things like our very close partner Layer 0, which is working on that cross-chain messaging setup for Etherlink and frankly like dozens of other chains at this point. They will support Solana relatively soon. We are a launch partner of Stargate, which is a sister project to Layer 0, same founder, different team, where the goal is for Stargate.finance is one of the most visited websites in crypto. You're going to be able to go there, select Etherlink, and send some tokens from Etherlink to other ecosystems and vice versa. So you have some stuff you've been farming on Arbitrum 1 for a little while, you want to check out Etherlink, you go on Stargate.finance, you want to bridge your ETH from Arbitrum 1 to Etherlink. You can do this easily, and in fact you can do it even more easily that you can add some gas in the form of test tokens, so that when you bridge your ETH, not only do you get the, let's say, 0.1 ETH that you were trying to bridge, but you also get a small quantity of TES, let's say 0.5 TES, 1 TES, when you get on the destination chain, Etherlink in that case, to be able to interact straight away with Etherlink. You have partners like Midas, like I was talking about before, IDOS, which lets users share things about themselves, proof of personhood, some types of KYC down the line, in a very easy way so that you don't have to do KYC over and over on various apps if there is a need for KYC. You have partners that are more recent, from the ones in the DeFi Catalyst Accelerator. The apps that are building with us had some need from some outside partners, one of them being ZeroDev. Revo, for example, was working on smart accounts, and they needed ZeroDev to be available on Etherlink. Our team reviewed it, decided that it was a good fit, and we reached out to them, and they are now coming to Etherlink and fully available from day one. We have a number of partners, including ThirdWeb, partners within the ecosystem on those libraries that are quite commonly used that will support Etherlink. We have a chain ID that's now official for Etherlink mainnet, 42793. All of those are like being ironed out. The graph for subgraphs and subsquid as well, making it available from day one, and is already available on the beta mainnet, for people to have very simple UI that are snappy, are able to reference the chain in a way that's very easy to consume for their UIs and for their Web2 backends if they need one. All of this is coming from day one on Etherlink. The documentation is being updated to reflect all of this. Already has a number of those partners listed, and we encourage the community to look at those, familiarize themselves with them, and let us know if you have other ideas, other things that can, of course, always permissionlessly deploy on Etherlink, but can also get some of our help for integration, anything related to what the partners are currently on the chain, and for things that can be a bit more tricky to get together with the coordination of partners. One of them has been recently Fireblocks, a very well done custody solution that has been biggest custody service available to many builders and many traders in various ecosystems over the last few years. Etherlink will have Fireblocks support from day one of the launch late June, and Tezos as well, the L1. So this is something that's quite exciting and will unleash some potential attractiveness for Etherlink from big traders and institutions going forward.
So what about the long term for Etherlink? Are you working on bringing other projects for the next 6 or 12 months to Etherlink? Is there anything that you're working on at the moment that you're really excited about that's going to come in the future for Etherlink?
Yeah, so there are several segments on that front. One of them is like, a lot of people, and it's become a buzzword and has a bit of a negative connotation at this point, but tokenization really is an important bit, right? We're building an alternative piping for the financial system. For that piping to be used, we need to have that ability to have some links to the real world. Tokenization is that link, and there's so much work to be done with regulators around the world, in Europe specifically in our case, to understand how those solutions can be used, how they can truly have a secondary market, to not only like say, okay, I've minted on-chain XYZ, but actually I'm able to trade it with someone else in a relatively unencumbered way that looks better from a workflow perspective from what exists on the traditional financial side. Or the way, what is the point, right? And we're doing a lot of work on this behind the scenes. We're hoping to communicate on that relatively shortly, and so stay tuned on that one. Another thing where we're working very, very hard is anything that's centralized. That is centralized exchanges, on-ramps, off-ramps, all of this. Those are pain points and things that, haven't made it easy to interact with on-chain in the past. And that's something that we really, really want to facilitate with Etherlink. We think that the ecosystems, especially Ethereum and the EVM for some of the code bases that already exist, have done a lot of primitives for DeFi, for social fi at this point, for gaming that are interesting. We don't think there's that much more to be built in order to make it interesting. We think that the main angle to go to the next step is for a lot more users, those 400 million users I was talking about, to actually give it a shot on-chain. And for that thing, no, most people won't be willing to install a MetaMask, back up their seed phrase, hope that no one steals that seed phrase and steals their money, all of this. People want a relatively comfortable experience that is quite similar to what they're used to, with Web2 logins, with a bank type setup where if they lose their password, it's okay, or things like that. This is making a lot of progress in the last year or so. The account abstraction standards that are being worked on are remarkable, and we think that more and more of that will get us to a point where users who are not crypto native might actually give the on-chain experience a shot. And you're seeing that with a lot of centralized exchanges as well, making those Web3 experiences available. They call it Web3 wallets or something. The latest one was Bybit introducing that on their own UI. Binance did that way before. BitGet, OKX, a lot of them are doing this. And that, to me, has legs, and we're very interested in this kind of aspect of the ecosystem as well.
Great, yeah, that sounds really exciting for the future of Etherlink.
Glad you feel that way.
Okay, Nico, thank you very much for all this information about Etherlink. I think a lot of people are excited about what's going to happen with it. A lot of us are looking at Etherlink, and we're looking forward to all the projects that are going to come to it. A lot of exciting things in the future. Yeah, so a lot of the projects or information that is in this video is going to be in the description of the video. So you can check it. You can check the different projects, and all the information are going to be in the links. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and we'll be very happy to answer them.